Selena, welcome, welcome. Yeah, all right. So nice all of you joined. Okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, Mrs. Jacob, are you in position to read? Okay, yeah, right. Okay, uh, brother, Sister Mamta, I think I would like to ask you if it's no problem. Can you kindly read the verses, please? Yeah, okay. So let me just give a little bit of a background. So we are studying this book of Ruth. Book of Ruth comes right after Judges. It was actually a story that happened during the time of Judges. Okay, and why we say so is because although the writer is credited according to rabbinic tradition to be Samuel, it cannot be Samuel because it talks about David being king in this book, and Samuel was dead by the time David becoming king. So it was probably some other writer, but definitely this story happened during the Judges period because Boaz was the son of Rahab, the prostitute who was rescued by Joshua. So this happens very early in during the time of Judges, and it is probably written around 1010 BC, and this was written, according to ESV Study Bible, as a kind of way to bring common origin between two kingdoms, because by the time it was written, the kingdom of Israel was divided. So it was probably to show how there is one source for this kingdom, and David was a king to bring about unity. Okay, all right. So now we read from verses 1. Sister Mamta, can you kindly read, please?
Yes, Pastor.
You were saying something,
Mrs. Jacob, I was earlier asking you to read, but you did not respond.
Pastor?
Yeah. So Sister Mamta is reading
No,
now. That's fine.
How many verses?
Okay. I was
Yeah.
adjusting the phone.
Okay. Sister Mamta, go ahead and read verse 1.
Pastor, verse 1.
Yeah.
In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. Continue.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's enough. That's enough. Yeah. So now, what was this? What was the time during which this story played out? When did this actually happen? What was the exact period that this was going around? According to verse 1. Yeah. Anyone? During
When
whose
judges
period?
were ruling. When
Yeah,
judges were
during
ruling.
Judges. Excellent. Very good. Now, who were the judges? Who were these judges, and what was the time? Can you describe what was the time like for Israel under their rule? Who were the judges? Can somebody give some information? Anyone?
Actually, there is a note which says that it was probably between 1380 before Christ to 1050 before Christ.
Right. Okay. I don't know. I got it. No need to read the whole note. I just need short answer. So, yeah. So judges were basically military leaders. Okay, they were after Joshua died, Israel's commitment with God also died, and they used to regularly disobey, go away from God, and then God would, bring enemy upon them, and so they would cry out to the Lord, and then God would raise up a leader. So these were all temporary leaders. They were military leaders who used to oversee Israel during those tough times, and then again after some time they would start sinning. Okay, so this is what the period was, and this was a very fallen time when everybody did what was right in the eyes of them. Everybody did whatever they thought was right. So it was very much a place of there was no fear of the Lord. People were immoral. There was lawlessness, anarchy, political, economic instability. That was the time. Okay. Now, okay, welcome, Sister Anaga, Sister Anne, Binoy, Cynthia, Brother Jaikar. Yeah, okay, welcome everybody who joined. God bless. And Mary also, yeah. Okay, now, when this happens, can you tell me how is it, where is this, this is happening in Israel, promised land, okay, the land of overflowing with milk and honey. So how can there be a famine in promised land? Anyone? How can there be a famine in promised land? God had promised, right, to look after them, to provide for their needs. Any clue? Anyone? Yeah, please unmute and answer. Go ahead, no problem. Anybody can answer. There's no fine, no punishment. What do you think is the reason that there was a famine when they were supposed to be in a promised land where God was supposed to look after their needs?
Because of
Actually, the possibility is that it was from Bethlehem in Judah. Since this couple had moved to Moab, probably it was the whole of Israel that was passing through famine.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. Thank you. Yes. Sister Mamta, you were saying something? Somebody was speaking? Okay. Anyone? All right. Welcome,
Maybe they
welcome.
disobeyed God.
Yes, India.
They disobeyed God,
Yeah,
so
correct,
the
correct.
enemy entered the territory.
Right, exactly. It is because they disobeyed God. This was it. God had promised, but God had also warned that if you break my covenant, if you break my commandments, if then you will suffer. Okay, then you will be punished. So that is what it was, right? Now, okay. Now, what happened because of this famine that was there? What happened? Because this famine came upon the land, what happened? What was the what happened? Oh, okay, okay. One second. Let somebody. Okay, instead of reading, just answer because then it takes time. No, the the Bible portion is right in front of you. What happened because of this famine that came upon Bethlehem? What was the consequence? What happened? What one thing happened?
They had to move to
Migration.
Moab.
Yes, migration, correct. Yes, correct, correct. Migration, there was a family that went to Moab. Amalek was the man, it was his family. Amalek meant God is my king, and his wife's name was Naomi. Naomi means pleasant. The name of the sons were Mahalon, which would mean weak, and Ilion, which would mean sick, or so that's what yeah. Sorry, Chilean was wasting away and Mahalon meant sickness. Yeah. So basically, these names were there because in the Jewish tradition, the mother usually gave the names. And she gave the names according to how she saw the baby. Maybe the baby was too sick or weak, so they would give this kind of names. Okay. All right. So they went and shifted to uh, this place called Moab. That was about 50 kilometers away from the other side of the Jordan River. Okay, right now, and what happened once so they went there for a short while, right? They went there for a short while. It says. In the translations they said live, yeah, here it says to live for a while. Okay, they just went to live for a while. But what happened? What ended up happening? They might have just gone for a little bit of business or work for a short while, but what actually ended up happening?
Elimelech died.
Pardon?
Elimelech died.
Elimelech died. Okay, and what else?
All the three died. Father and two sons.
All right, all the two. But one more thing happened over there.
The two sons were married to local girls in Moab.
Correct. They were married to local girls to Moab, in Moab, right? That was Orpha and Ruth. Now, right. So now what was Moab? Does anybody know who are the Moabites? Who are the Moabites?
They were descendants of Lut.
Yeah, correct. They were descendants of Lot. Yeah, they came from this incestuous relationship. And I would request Brother Shiv Kumar, you know a lot of answers, so wait for others to answer. So everybody gets a chance. Yeah, thank you. So so basically Moabites were descendants of Lot, incestuous relationship with that Lot was drunk, there was no man, and that's what happened. So they were also the people who had refused to feed Israelites, give them food and water when they were out of Egypt and they were traveling. So they were kind of punished for not coming into the assembly. They were not anywhere allowed near the temple. I mean, of course, they could not never get in because they were not Israelites, but they were not allowed to come anywhere near the temple. And they were among the Canaanites, so they were basically not Israelites. And their god was Chemosh, and one of the sacrifice to him was child sacrifice. Okay, now they were basically among the Canaanites. They were Canaanite tribe, and Israelites were not allowed to marry them, right? But we see that these family goes there, Elimelech dies, and his two sons marry low. Now, what made this family settle there? They were supposed to have gone there only for a while. So can anybody say what made them go and even settle there? What could have made them settle there?
Marriage.
Marriage. Okay, anything else? Anything else? Why did they settle there? They lived there for 10 years. They married there. Why didn't they come back?
They were happy in Moab.
Yeah, correct. They were happy in Moab. Okay, excellent. Any other answer? Sister Cynthia? Good. Anybody else?
Because there was a famine there.
Yeah. There was a famine, correct. Yeah, there was a famine going on, so they had gone to escape that place. And then finally they settled down there. They were comfortable. Maybe they were making more money, better days. That's how. They just settled down there, right? But do you think it was overall a good decision for them to shift there? Or a bad decision for them to shift there? Anyone? Yeah? Anyone? Yeah?
I think it was a good decision, but being in that comfort zone, when you think of that, it was a wrong decision. Getting married, mingling with them.
Right. Yeah. So, basically, because these people were dependent on agriculture or whatever, and there was famine, then they shifted there. So this was actually what happened many times in the Bible also. It's there. Maybe we can criticize them why others did not leave, you left, but this was actually part and parcel of life. And there are many instances in biblical characters also shifting, Jacob, Abraham. Now, the thing is, maybe it's very, very hard to say, but we can see that the two sons died, Elimelech died, two sons died, and also both the women were childless. So there seems to be some hint that this was not really place, because Jews would not actually go and settle down and marry, intermarry, and all that. That's how it is. Now, can you try and draw a parallel in today's time about people shifting from one place to the other? How does that, do you think, what are the challenges that people face when they migrate, maybe from village to the city, or from India, they go abroad? What are the pros and cons of it? Would you like to discuss that? People shifting. Are there some issues? Yeah. Yeah, Mrs. Marcus.
Joseph and Mary also shifted from one place to another.
Correct. That's very good. So it's not exactly good or bad, and we know that they escaped also from that place. So, but what are some of the challenges when people migrate? What do you think are some of the challenges here that we become aware of?
You might not be exactly accepted over there.
They might not be exactly
accepted over there.
Yeah, they might not be accepted. That's very true. Very true. People, you will not be easily accepted. Right now in the West also, many citizens are voting for the right government, which means they don't want outsiders. Yes. Any other challenges are there? Yes, Brother Shiv Kumar. Please unmute. If people are quiet, you can speak. No problem.
The first is language, second is culture, and third is the livelihood, the sources of livelihood.
Okay.
That one may be accustomed back in their motherland. They may not find the same thing in the land they migrate. They intend to migrate.
Right. Cultural shocks. Another said challenges regarding food, climate. Very true. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So there can be n number of reasons that are there. There are new values, new religious beliefs. Some people also shift. Youngsters want to shift sometimes for career, but then sometimes they also get lost. There is good also. Many people are able to earn and support their livelihood, but there is a great strain on the family also, family system, family unit. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of challenge, but it also goes to bring the issue of migrant workers, how people go in search of livelihood and they become easy targets. Do you know, right now there is war going on in Ukraine. There is war going on, in many places. Of course, there's Israel and Palestine war also. And there are people trying to flee the land. They're escaping. Do you know what is the danger they go through? When they just want to get away somewhere. What are the dangers they face? Anyone? Yeah. There's also the danger of human trafficking, exploitation, and so many kinds of things can come. You see, so they are very vulnerable, very weak, exposed. It's a very desperate situation, right? Now, one thing we have to be very careful about is, in a desperate situation, do not act desperately. Be very careful what you're going to do next, or you can sometimes get into greater trouble than what you are in the first place. Okay. Now, all right. So Elimelech dies, and they have lived there for 10 years. Now, what does Naomi do? Now, Naomi must be devastated, because this was a patriarchal society where having a man shelter in the house. Now, there is not one man left. Husband has died. Two of her sons are devastated. What does Naomi do next? Anyone?
They had left because of the famine, but now that they knew that the Lord had been gracious unto them, and so everything was okay, and she returned with the hope that she's returning to a place where everything will be taken care.
Correct. Now she decides to return, right? Because she hears the Lord has visited, which means that now there is no more famine. It's raining and crops are growing. Beth, which is supposed to be the house of bread, is now once again booming. Okay, so she decides to go back, right? So now her two daughter-in-laws also follow her, but on the way, she just turns around, just probably before leaving that land, she turns around and tells them, oh, what does she do? What does she tell them to her daughter-in-laws who are following her? And what's the reason she gives? Anyone? What does she tell her daughter-in-laws who want to follow her? Anyone?
Go to their mother's home.
Yeah, go back to their mother's home. Why? Why is she telling them to go?
Because all of them have lost their husbands, and she's going to a new place. So she's giving them that option.
She's giving them an option. Okay. Anyone
She
else?
knew that they will not be accepted.
Okay, accepted.
They might be safer in their mother's home.
Safer in the mother's home. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Welcome to the Surendra. Yeah. Binoy. Anyone?
So that she hopes that in the mother's home that they will find another husband.
Yes, correct. So the whole point of women in that time was to produce a child so that the family name can go forward. Women by themselves, unfortunately, in those times, did not have any social, so they needed to produce a male heir or find a husband. So that's what. So now they were completely weak and vulnerable. So she says, you go to a place of security, a mother's home, go back there. Because I'm so old now, how can I ever produce a child, So she reasons with them, okay? So what happens? Now she says that, no, even if I had a husband tonight, I will not be able to give birth to sons, right? So, will you wait for that long? Because how can you, at least you go to your mother's home, your family might get you married, and once again you will have a baby, because that was the main purpose of women in those times. And that is what helps us understand the story of Judah and Tamar also. Judah was the father-in-law and Tamar, and so we might think, oh, what did she do? She slept with her husband, her father-in-law. But the main thing was that for their social purpose, obligation was to produce a child. Yeah. Right. So she says, that's it, go ahead. Okay. Okay, then what happens? How do Orpha and Ruth react to that? What happens? Okay, okay, one second. Now, what do we learn about Naomi from this situation? What would Naomi releasing her daughter-in-laws, telling them to go when she herself is weak, alone, lonely? What does it tell us about Naomi?
She's a very good mother-in-law.
She's a very good mother-in-law. Yeah.
She says, you've been good to my sons.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Any other? So, what does it tell us about her character, her nature? Anybody else wants to describe more? Yeah. So, usually, yes, Mrs. Marcus, you want to say something? Yeah.
A strong bond between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law.
Yeah, that is to come. Yeah, correct. Now, usually she could have felt that, okay, I'm suffering and I need all the attention and I need all the care. I don't have to be lonely. We can tend to become very, very selfish and self-centered, isn't it? In our suffering, we want all the pity, we want all the sympathy and all the care. Yeah, but even in that time, she considerate, and she's thinking about the future of her daughter-in-laws, that because of me, these girls are still young, they have hope, and sometimes, we must examine how we are. When we suffer, we want to make sure everybody else also suffers along with us, isn't it? That's also when true, yeah. Okay, that could be a possibility, yeah. Right. So, Sister Anna read that, yeah. So, but she is actually very caring. She cares about it. That's very, very important to know about that thing about her, yeah. Right. Now, okay. So now, what is the reaction response of Orpah and Ruth? The word, the name Orpah means fawn, gazelle, young deer, and Ruth means friendship. How do they react differently? Both of them love her. What's the difference? How do they respond differently when Naomi tells them the facts? You might be thinking, I have a plan to get you married somewhere, but I don't. I myself, I'm helpless. Please go, save yourself. Anyone? Yeah. What's the difference between what do they do? Just tell me, what do they do? What are their actions? Does Orpha respond differently? Ruth respond differently? What happens?
Ruth
Yeah.
knew who Naomi worshipped. She knew while Oprah didn't. So she had hope.
She had some hope. Correct. Yeah. So, Orpha does what? And Ruth does what? Okay. Orpha decides to.
She decides to go to her mother's home.
She goes back to her mother's place. And Ruth, what does Ruth do?
Ruth wants to continue with Naomi. She says that your people will be my people and your God will be my God.
Correct, yeah. So now Orpha actually is reasonable. She says that, okay, no, come on, yes, that's quite fair. So she says, all right, I'll go back. And Orpha actually goes on and becomes the mother of Goliath, the giant. That's how the story goes, yeah. Anyway, Ruth clings to his mother-in-law, and Ruth gives this commitment. What is remarkable about Ruth making that commitment? What makes Ruth's commitment so powerful? Anyone? What can we learn? I mean, what's so powerful and what can we learn from this? Yeah? Anyone? Yeah, Brother Shiv Kumar, please answer. No problem.
Yes. Actually, Ruth was totally committed to this family, and so she was not ready to leave her mother-in-law at this crucial phase in her life. And she was determined to go with her, even if death could not separate her. Her decision to that was her commitment, the level of her commitment to her, because she announces that your God will be my God, your people will be my people. I will stay with you wherever you go. That was total surrender.
Correct.
And here one thing is that she sacrificed everything, every her requirements, her life's peace, enjoyments, everything that she could have got, but she did not. She was not ready to enjoy those things at the cost of her mother-in-laws.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I think yeah. So basically, if we go to see, Ruth was unwilling to leave. She was very committed, and probably it seems most commentators say that she was touched by the God, Yahweh God, and she wanted to be part of his people. Maybe she saw all the immorality in Moab and what was there, and she did not want that. And sometimes people are seeking for the truth, and she wanted to go. But then, nonetheless, she was very caring. She was very committed. Yeah, and was single-minded. Naomi did not then pursue her once she saw that Ruth had made up her mind she was not going to pursue her. And it was also reflective of God's commitment to his people. God said it, you are my people and I will be your God. And God stuck with Israelites, to the end. So Ruth also was unwilling to flinch. And that goes to show just what we can learn about love and relationships. And sometimes, what does it tell us also about the nature of relationship in crisis? What do we come to know about people around us? When we are faced with a crisis, how do we know who our friends are? Who are the people who really love us? Anyone? Yeah?
Yeah, that's something very. I've not observed that before from this passage, and I think it's
Yeah.
quite relevant.
Yeah, Binoy.
Ruth is Ruth is sticking on to her mother-in-law. That's very commendable,
Right,
and,
right.
and she's traveling to an unknown place.
Mm.
Probably, I mean, she
Yeah.
might have heard about the culture, but this is something. It's stepping into the unknown.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, and it's truly commendable.
Yeah, it's truly commendable someday. Like they say, when everything is nice, you have many friends. You have many relatives visiting you, but when you are down and out, then people leave you. So that just goes to show the nature of true love. True love is that persists, that the one who never leaves your side. That's how it is. That's really reflective of how God is with us. Yeah. So Ruth is determined. Yeah, to stick with her. That's how. Now, what's the reaction of the people in the town when Naomi visits? How do you think the people in the town reacted, and how do you think Naomi must have felt coming to the town? Anyone? Coming back to her hometown after 10 years. Yeah, please unmute and say, yeah. Hello,
The whole
welcome, Sister Pushpa, welcome, prayer, welcome. Yeah,
Thank you.
yes, yes. Uh, yeah, go ahead, anyone? Yeah. How do you think the town reacted? The town must have been like a buzz, like, oh, Naomi's back. My God, after 10 years, she's back. Now, how did Naomi face them and what was her reaction? What did she say about herself? How do you think she must have felt and what was she saying? Anyone?
Naomi must have thought that she made a wrong decision to leave
She must have felt she did a wrong decision. Okay.
the place with her
Mhm.
husband and son.
Okay, okay.
She must have regretted.
Right.
She
Anything
must have
else?
she must have felt embarrassed.
She must have felt embarrassed. I mean, maybe shame. Shame is yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, humiliation. Yeah, okay. But she came back, right? She pushed against it all. Anything else?
I think from her response, she says, "I went away full, but the Lord
Hmm.
has brought me back empty." So it's sort of a desperate situation for her. Sort
Yeah,
of a,
yeah.
yeah. And
Right.
one thing to notice is she puts it on God actually.
Right, correct. Yeah.
And probably from the Hebraic mindset, everything happens because God ordains it. We see that in the Old Testament. What you intended for evil, God has turned to good. So probably she sees the hand of God in everything.
Right. So within 10 years, she's lost 3 of her loved ones, her husband, her 2 sons. And with that, all the men dead, there is no hope for us. She's now, and by the way, was she really empty when she came back? Was she really empty?
She was empty, but she had her property.
She had Naomi with her.
No. She had Ruth with her, isn't it?
Yes.
Ruth.
But you see how, so what does it tell us about grief? What can grief and suffering, excessive suffering, like one after the other, you get blows of suffering, what can that do to people?
Make us bitter.
It can make you bitter. Anything else? What is a human tendency?
Go into a shell or something.
Go into a shell, okay.
Become sad.
Become sad.
Sometimes even suicidal.
Suicidal, correct.
Yeah, it can make.
Go ahead. Yeah. Mr. Annie and Anaga, is it who was speaking? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it can make you blind to what you have.
Yeah, it can make, correct. Yeah, very well said. You can become so blind that you might not know what you know, because she had forgotten about this kinsman redeemer. Yeah, so it can be excessively negative. Yeah. And then anything else? And sometimes in the end, you can just blame God, right? It's so easy to say, oh God, you have done this. And
she blamed God, no?
Yeah, she blames God. The God has brought me empty. His hand is against me, she was saying. And that's just a tendency. Maybe there was there, and people do that, right? People often make their own decisions in life without even consulting God, or maybe without seeking His face symbolically. And when things go wrong, they end up blaming God. And sometimes we can all be doing that sometimes. Yeah. Right now, yes.
Yeah, Vijay, just a quick question.
Yeah, quick. Yeah, go ahead,
So,
please.
is it blaming God or accepting the fact that the Almighty was, because the book of Ruth, there is this thread. I don't think the word God is, it's kind of hidden.
Lord is there. They do say Lord, but there's no active thing about God working or saying anything. He's in the background.
Yes, correct. So, in the sense that the book itself is trying to say that God is in the details. Although she might have made a mistake from her perspective, the Almighty is the one who's ordaining or directing her paths. That's what I got. I'm not sure if we can say. Can we say she's blaming God or she's accepting?
Okay. That's a very good observation actually. There are people who say that Naomi did have some faith in God, because of which she came back to God. She came seeking God. And what she was saying is that she was just accepting all the shame that was being thrown in her direction. Okay, fine, I am like that. Yeah, go ahead and tell me that I'm bitter and I'm empty. Yeah, fine. So that's also a part that's also there really. You cannot deny the fact that she was just accepting her misfortune.
Correct.
That's how she was.
So there's technically no misstep in a person who believes in God. I mean, we might say it's a misstep, but God is orchestrated.
See, actually, the thing is, when somebody blames God, doesn't mean their faith is over. It is still a part of faith. Fighting with God, getting angry with God is all accepted as an expression of your intimacy with God. That you, like Job says, no, even though your hand may slay me, I will still trust in you. Like many of the lament psalms are about that. That Lord, you are the one. Even Jesus said, "Why, my God, why have you forsaken me?" So you can go through those times of being forsaken, being abandoned, being lost. God's hand is against me. God, I'm empty. God has forgotten me. But you can feel like it, but you are not. God has not left you. So there's one thing to feel like it, but the other thing is that God is still there. But the only thing is you are not feeling like it. That's what it is. Yeah. So yeah. So do you think, friends, just to ask, do you think God had left Naomi?
No.
No, God had never left Naomi. God was always, but Naomi was feeling like it. Yeah. So Naomi was feeling like it. She was expressing, she was crying out, her heart's agony was there. Yeah. Right. And okay, so I think so many times even we feel like it, isn't we say things out of emotion. There's nothing wrong in that. I think we have to encourage lament worship. Lament worship is expressing your deepest, purest disappointment with God, even fighting with God, even expressing your anger towards God. That's perfectly fine, and it's actually much better saying that God, I'm angry with you. God, you have forsaken me. God, you have abandoned me. You are not a loving God. It is okay to say that, really, because that actually is what you're feeling, and it's true. God would want you to speak the truth. It's in your heart, rather than say that, God, you are so good to me, when in your heart you don't mean it at all. Okay, so that's actually part of it. Sometimes when if you know that you might have experienced sometimes that if you love somebody, or sometimes in your friendship or in your family relations, you might have something against someone, but you are not wanting to speak it out, deal with it, then the relationship starts dying slowly. It becomes artificial. But once you say it, once you confront the person, once you tell, you have done this to me, I'm hurt, there's opportunity for healing, forgiveness, and reconciliation. So that's a very good thing, actually. That Naomi is still a believer, even though it looks like she's at the bottom, but she still is clinging on to God. That's how she's back, right? Okay, last verse. So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth, Moabite, her daughter, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. This is the beginning of this harvest season. That's the first crop. This is the time people would bring their first crop. So she's coming right in the beginning of harvest season, starting. What does this verse tell you? The last verse. So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth, the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem. What does this last verse tell you? Anyone?
She had come in time of the harvest. That means she was hoping that she would, get some food or be able to work during the harvest time and get some food, get something to eat.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Very nice. Yeah. Anyone else?
I also had the same opinion.
Yeah, she's coming at a time to maybe get some food from the harvest. Very true. What else?
And also,
yeah, Brother Shiv Kumar, you're saying something? Yeah.
Yes, actually, it was the beginning of her, the end of her misfortune, and it was looking as if life was again going to offer uh, something new in her life that was deprived of so many things for the last 10 years. And the famine has ended, and she was again with her people and she has been accompanied by a trusted family member with her. So life was beginning to smile at her. That was the consolation, not only the consolation, but a big reliever for her.
Right, right. Okay.
I feel that she would have thought to herself that if I go to Bethlehem, Ruth will also have some work, some job.
Correct.
The
Yes,
harvest
right.
season has
Right,
started, and
right.
she may find a partner for her.
Yeah, it could have been tough, yeah, because she was a widow, right? So it's marrying a widow again. But there was just, see, women without men in that society, when there was no men left, were just meant to beg and die, live by almsgiving or whatever work they could do, take some. And now in a foreign land, there was no hope for her. So she finally comes back to her roots, thinking that she can live off the kindness of community people, at least. That's how she's back, right? In this, there is one part in this sentence that's really holds a big clue as to what was going to happen next.
Yeah, in Romans.
Pardon? Yeah.
In Romans, it says, "No, God does. God works for the good of those."
Yeah, correct. So, now God was going to reveal the harvest of his blessings. Naomi had no clue. She was thinking she's empty, she's bitter. Don't call me Naomi pleasant. Don't call me pleasant. Call me bitter. Call me Mara. She had completely lost hope. There was just like little bit of thread like hope that brought her back. And in that now God was going to rewrite this. She was on the edge, threshold of a big change, a tremendous change in her life. A big turnaround of events is going to come. And she had no idea that she thought she was from an ordinary family, Elimelech and all that. Now she was going to be associated with King David and also Jesus Christ, you see. So you understand what that goes to show is exactly what Sister Anne said. For all those who are called according to God's purpose, God will lead. God, yeah. So that's how it is. So God is always working in the background, beloved. We might think like Naomi, maybe there are situations in our life where we might feel very bitter, angry, abandoned. It's so important to cling to God. Fight with God, cling to God. Don't go away. Don't stop talking to God. God will rewrite the story of your life. Okay? Excellent. So that's what we see, very, very powerful turnaround. And also here it shows Ruth the Moabite. Why is that mentioned here? Ruth the Moabite also joined her with her.
Because she's from a Moabite family, no?
She's from a Moabite family. But what does that mean that title is again and again referred over here?
I think Moab is a descendant of
Lot.
Cain,
Yeah,
of Cain or
Lot.
something, of Lot.
Lot, yeah.
Hmm.
So what does that mean, that sentence? It's very symbolic. Ruth's name being mentioned, not just Ruth, but Ruth the Moabite.
I think it's showing that she's still a foreigner.
She's still a foreigner. Okay. Anyone else?
Like Jesus accepted Gentiles.
Yeah.
Like Jesus accepted Gentiles.
Yeah, correct. So now we see that Ruth the Moabite is also joining into God's people. Yeah. So God's steadfast love, his loving kindness extends to all. And that's what it shows that's what it is, a clue here that we see how she's going to become part of God's glorious plan. Now it also goes to now before we close, we look at some issues, but anything that strikes you from this story, anything that struck you, anything that you found interesting, because when you say something, it will also help other people. Yeah. Anything that you found interesting? Anything that struck you? Yeah. Right. Okay. How is Naomi's and Ruth's relationship a very powerful witness and challenge to modern day's relationship, Ruth and Naomi? The fact that Ruth clings to her, how is that a complete challenge, a counter to our culture and our times and our society? Relationship dynamics. Anyone?
I think the commitment is very less in most of the relationships right now.
Yeah, very true. Yes. People quit on each other very quickly. They give up. Very important. Anything else? Yeah. Also, it's good to see how yeah, whether we are also like we might want to be in Naomi's place, isn't it? We want to see always examine other people's relationship with us, but can we be like Ruth? Can we be that way committed to others also in the similar fashion, or do we distance ourselves from losers, from weak people, from people who have no hope? No, now it's okay. This person is no good. It's so important to stick it out with them, right? Sometimes we write them off. We say it's your own fault, your own mistakes, and then we just kind of. It's important to think both ways, right? Now, one thing we also see is the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law challenge. How is Ruth and Naomi relationship a challenge to the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship today? Yeah. Anyone? Yeah, because very often we see that these are like big rivals, isn't it? These dynamics about mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. We see so many TV serials based on these relationships. Yeah, where there is always in conflict. But is what does the Bible show us? The Bible shows that every relationship can be a very loving, kind, and fulfilling way. So we should not believe these lies that are shown to us. That is translated in the culture and the society always. Because we there are that condition to think and even behave like that. Yeah. So we need to have this biblical understanding, biblical whether it is possible to love your mother-in-law, or and of course this can translate in other relationships also that we have. Yeah. Man love money more, such relation very rare to find. Yes, yes, correct. Yes. Very true. Yeah. In every relationship that matters, right? Now, what do you, when people have gone through a tragedy and they are grieving, like Naomi is grieving, suppose she's saying, God has done this to me, and I'm so angry with God, and I'm so upset with God, and God has left me. God is not good at all. He's not kind. He's cruel. Somebody saying stuff like that. What should you do? How should you deal with that kind of a person? Anyone? Yeah. Somebody.
Blaming God can be a cry for help also. They can.
Yeah. That's very good. That's a very good answer. Yes. So how do we deal with that kind of a person? Somebody is bereaved. They've lost somebody young. They've lost their young son, and they cannot understand why God has done this. What will you do? And they're grieving, or they're going on saying, God, how can you do this to me? God, you are so cruel.
I think lament with them, you know, like what you see. I think Paul says, grief, weep with those who weep and laugh with those who laugh. Also, we see the example of Job's friends. They come alongside of him. I mean, although they changed their, they kind of wept and mourned with them, with Job for some time. Yeah, sharing each other's burdens. It's part of another New Testament perspective. You know, as in the community of Christians, we share each other's.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, what has happened today is that it's all based on relation. I mean, on money and all that stuff. So once you personally, I've experienced it. Once you lose your job, you lose everything. At least, I mean, I was in Dubai, so the church could not really help me. I mean, although they tried, but there was, you lose everything. I mean, once you lose your job, you lose your visa, you lose everything. And in fact, they had to, like, I couldn't attend the church because I was not there. So I lost the membership also. So it's a pretty tragic situation. Yeah. Sometimes the church is also helpless.
Yeah. So I think thank you, brother. Anybody else wants to share? How do we deal with such people sometimes who are so much struggling and suffering?
At that time when our faith is challenged by tribulations and tests, we should hold our spirit together so that we are not on the path which only leads us to a suicidal, including destruction of our faith. We should stick to words, and we should follow words and prayers, and thereby we should at least maintain our faith to what level it has reached. It should not go down from that level. Otherwise, we will lose everything.
Right. Yeah. Correct. So I think one thing is definitely that it's very important to allow people to grieve. Yeah. Anybody was wanting to say something? Yeah. Do not try to correct people. Don't try to start counseling them immediately. Don't say, how can you blame God? Like Job's friend. Don't do that. Let them grieve. Let them express their bitterness and anguish. Just be quietly by their side. Like Ruth was so quiet just by her side. And help and be a support. Be somebody, be that expression of God that I have not left your side. Be loving and kind. Yeah. And I think definitely, when it comes to the church should not be more than an institution. The church is supposed to embody Christ and be his love and healing and all that. So that's very, very important. Unfortunately, the church has become very, very institutionalized. It's like some kind of a government office where rules cannot be bent and all that. The church must be embody the love of Christ. Yeah, that's how it is. So it's very important to let such people grieve, and after some time they will automatically find their answer. Just be with them, pray with them, listen to them. That's all. Don't try to change them and correct them and all that way, right? Now the thing is, I think last and very important thing we learn is that to be like Naomi, come to the Lord, knock on his door, cling to him, to be like that bleeding woman who pushes through the crowd despite 12 years of bleeding for that touch of God. And so Naomi is just trying to reach out to the Lord with the last bit of strength she has left. And see how wonderfully Lord writes. She is probably thinking, like the prodigal son coming back, I've gone away from you, Lord. Now just give me something from under the table, like a dog, I will eat some crumbs. But God just wants to lift her up and love her and honor her. And it's so beautiful. And that's how God wants to treat every one of us. you might think you are, God's hand is against you and all that, but that's just a lie, really. God is always wanting to love you and bless you and encourage you and strengthen you. Yeah. So come to the Lord and cling to the Lord. Don't stop talking to God. Just express your heart, your anger, disappointment, but keep coming back to him, keep clinging back to him, because he's always God has called everyone according to his purpose, right? And he's leading everyone, yeah, all those who love him and all those who are called according to his purpose, and he's conforming us to the image of his son. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. May God bless you.